Thank you, Rosina, for joining in. Thank you, Valerie, for joining in. Uh, Good morning, brothers and sisters, brothers across all over the world. Uh, I know I will be broadcasting live on my Facebook, on my YouTube. So either way, you should be able to get me live. And I want to take a moment to thank many of you that are tuning in this morning. Here again, my name is Funton Daniel. I am speaking here from the great state of Texas here in the United States. And I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are tuning in this morning. If you are here in the United States, if you are elsewhere, if you are South America, you are in Europe, you are in Ground Zero, you are in La Republique, wherever you are, I just want to thank you because we have a duty. And thank you, Nat, for joining in. Thank you, Issa, for joining in. Thank you, Grace, for joining in. And if you just tune in, please share and follow my brothers and sisters that are watching live on YouTube. I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are joining in this morning. Here again, my name is Funton Daniel. I will be speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States. Thank you, Clovis. Thank you, Mba, for joining in. Yes, thank you, Clovis, for joining in. Greetings, greetings. Thank you, Cedar, for joining in. If you just tune in, just share the link, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you, King Exodus, for joining in. Good afternoon. Thank you, Ari, for joining in. Thank you, Christoph, for joining in. And thank you, Ate, for joining in. If you just tune in, please share. And I will be broadcasting live on my Facebook, on my YouTube. And so either way, you should be able to get me live. I want to take a moment to thank of you joining in. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Christoph, for tuning in as well. Thank you. Greetings, Mr. King Exodus. Carmen, thank you for tuning in. Marco, thank you for tuning in. It's a pleasure having all these great men and women watching. And I thank you. We are all in this business together. Thank you, Felix, for joining in. Carmen, thank you for joining in. Here again, my name is Fonton Daniel. I will be speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States. Thank you, Kibi, for joining in. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining in. Here again, my name is Fonton Daniel. I will be speaking live here from the great state of Texas. It is a wonderful having you guys, and it is imperative that we are more united and good understanding about our goal, our missions. And our mission and our goal is clear. Thank you, Mr. Gerard, for joining us this morning. And it is important that we understand that the people of Ambazonian, the people of former British trusted territory, is in agony because when the world turned a blind eye and ignored the factual informations, that is where the world turned into chaotic scene. The world is now in a chaotic scene because those whom we believe supposed to provide leadership has imperatively ignored the leadership and choose the wrong leadership. But when we went to school, maybe we don't know when you last went to school, but it is important that what we learn and when we apply those fundamental principles, it provides the lasting solutions to peace and tranquility around the world. But when those who has the leadership ignore these fundamental principles and rather choose the wrong principles, and that is where you find the chaotic scene happening in and around the world. But however, the people of Southern Cameroon now, the Ambazonian, I am coming to you as one of the sons that we must rise against the evil leadership of this world, because the evil has overthrown the world and made the world become a nightmare for livable. You know, our people, the people of Ambazonian, as a people of one nation, are the sovereign people, has witnessed in a dramatic incursion into their territory by a terrorist government of, you all know. But before I dive into that, let's take a moment to thank this great nation, United States. United States has played a greater role. United States did not play a greater role because it's something they choose to. But United States played a greater role because it was the advent, when the rebirth of this great nation, the United States. They witnessed a sharp, dramatic execution of many of the people of these great nations. When the people rise, they said, no taxation without a representation was the philosophy of these great nations. And guess whom they were speaking to? They were speaking to the English crown. Because the people of Great Britain knew that they have a colonial territory, and a colonial territory in the West Hemisphere, which they just discovered. And so they were massive, and they believed that the United States belongs to the property of the Queen. But unfortunately, the people of these great nations said, we have to cut the ties. And they did so in an amicably way. And today, United States is one of the respected nations on earth. United States is the amicable nation, the most admired nation that one will ever believe. What matters to this nation become the most admired nations is because the law of the judiciary system, the ample suppression of the arm of government. But we want to thank this United States for providing this foundation for the rest of the world to adopt. But United States has extended its relationship towards the world to understand why United States is so exceptionally different. But many individuals have ignored these factual informations. And that is why you see people are rising against those evil dictatorships. That's why people are rising. But people are rising because they have a legitimate right to their self-freedom, because it is a God-given freedom that people must live freely in this world until the day that the Lord shall call upon them in their makerly days and days ahead. So I want to thank the President of this United States. I want to thank Nikki Haley. I want to thank the Secretary of State for these great nations. I want to thank the United States Department of Defense. I want to thank the leadership of these great nations. But one thing that you all know that is happening in Ambazonia, one post you all are aware of, you all have seen in all the social media. The Guardian post. The Guardian post in his caption says, a renowned U.S. election monitor predict a land victory for the terrorist Pobia of La République. A renowned, the Guardian post in his caption, he said, a renowned U.S. election monitor predict a landslide victory. And I am so proud of the men and women of these great nations. I am men and women of the Ambazonian origin. They are able to find out exactly where is this renowned U.S. election landslide victory that is announcing, that is coming from the United States. I mean, it's indeplorable that one will imagine that a renowned U.S. election monitor predict a landslide victory for Pobia and major media in La République. In the same caption, including major media, including the French media, they caption this particular individual, whom they consider a renowned U.S. predict a landslide victory. And guess who that individual happened to be? That individual happened to be a relative to the most terrorist individual, Atangaji, the ex-convict of La République. And that is the person that the media in La République captioned a renowned U.S. monitor predict a slight victory. The Guardian post. Can you believe that? Who is this journalist? Did they have any investigations? That is the person, the ex-convict relative that predict a slight victory, in which media, because it happened to come from the United States. It's not every individual, it's not every message that comes from the United States. It's worthy to be captured. But because they are back home, they are not aware of factual information. This individual undermine the integrity of the people of Southern Cameroon. And this individual undermine the value of the people of Southern Cameroon. This individual ignore the reality. The people of Southern Cameroon is not a single individual. I am so proud of the people of Southern Cameroon, now the Federal Republic of Ambazonian. They are able to search, they are able to dig deeply, they are able to investigate, they are able to find out exactly who the said individual that predict the land victory of the terrorist government. It happened to be a relative of the Atangaji. It is imperative that such individual, we the people believe that our freedom cannot be discarded by the certain individual. Our people, the people of Ambazonia, do not in any circumstances take instruction from La République. And we have the past being informed those individuals that they claim to be part of, that we have asked you to leave the Southern Cameroon territory. We have told all the colonial governors, because the moment ahead, the time is coming that the Battle of Waterloo will begin to ground every individual that are of La Republic origin, that has an allegiance to La Republic, that are in the home of Ambazonia, that they claim to control our territory. The Battle of Waterloo is coming. When the Germans, under the skillful Otto von Bismarck knew fully well that the independence of Germany will never be succeeded when the French government must control every aspect of Europe. But however, the skillful and the very strong man, Otto von Bismarck, called the Iron Chancellor. The Iron Chancellor was preparing for the independence of Germany, and he knew fully well exactly when the moment shall come. And when the moment shall come to the people of Germany, Otto von Bismarck was very skillful. He knew exactly what he was going to do. He knew that Germany can never achieve their independence without the influence of France. But because he was very charismatic and very skillful and prepared and unified the entire German state to under one entity. You all remember when Otto von Bismarck was addressing the Bundesrat, and he told the people, but unfortunately we have people like Atanganji that were present in the German's territory, and they went ahead to remove his suit. And Bismarck responded, the weather was actually hot. And because the weather was, there was heat. And because of the heat, he thanked the person that removed his jacket. But he proceeded with his speech. But I am here to let the Southern Cameroon and those colonial territory, that when the Southern Cameroon shall rise as the Otto von Bismarck, rise in the people of Germany. And therefore I am here to notify that all the colonial masters that are currently residing in Southern Cameroon, now the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, we the people, we have given you ample time, we have given you ample moment, that when we shall rise against you, it will be you gonna be returned back in your origin in different form, because we are here to package every individual that is in Ambazonian territory and ignore the factual information for our people. We are ready, we are prepared, and we are ready. And when the times of the moment come, we are going to package you and we're going to return you in different form. As we begin to prepare ourselves to start immediate packaging you and return to La Republic in different format, we have given you ample time to leave the Southern Cameroon Ambazonia. Our people for the past 56 years have suffered enough. Our people are living in the forest. And we ask ourselves, who is La Republic in our territory? We are equally as a nation. If the world ignores the factual information, then we must rise above the world and tell them that they should be following us behind, because we are moving ahead with our sovereignty. Our people cannot be standing and romancing while the world are being brutalized. Our people were born free, and they must grow free, and they must live free, and they must enjoy the liberty of their freedom. Atanganji. Atanganji. You all know what the atrocity that is being carried out by the Atanganji. You all know that there are movements. The Coupe de Route in Santa was carried out by this very atrocity, this set individual, the ex-convict of the Newberg prison. The Coupe de Route in the Southern Cameroon territory in Santa was carried out by this very terrorist individual that is under the terrorist government of La Republique and destabilizing the peace of our people. And I am telling you that the time will come, because the time is not far from now. We're going to predict the Battle of Waterloo for these people, this set individual. Because we have over the time ignored this factual, but we have come to the point that we must search this individual. We cannot grow up become the slave of our motherland. We cannot grow up become slave of our people. But our people must be free, and they must be free at last. You all know how our people are being destroyed. Our people are being destroyed by this very terrorist government of La Republique. We have bring this attention to the world community, but yet the world community is yet to realize the importance of people asking for fundamental questions. Atanganji is the architect of atrocity. Atanganji, an ex-convict from the New Bell prison, a graduate from the New Bell prison. Imagine the health center, the health community center in Tadu. The health community center was burned down a few days ago. It was burned down and the patient lying helplessly. The patient was burned down in Southern Cameroon. 13 patients were burned down, including a pregnant woman that was burned helplessly, and there was no way to go. But this terrorist military of La Republique is terrorizing the Southern Cameroon territory, burning the effigy, burning the people, including a pregnant woman that lying helplessly and about to deliver a child. But unfortunately, she couldn't escape the agony of a fire, of a terrorist government of La Republique invading the Southern Cameroon, because the world community has ignored the factual information to respect the will of the people when they choose what they want and should be respected. We all know that the United Nations, we all know the United Nations. All of us are aware of the United Nations. All of us is here in the United States. The United Nations that we all know is physically here in the United States. The United Nations, that was the organization that was formed. It was formed, the goal and the objective was clean and clear, to maintain lasting peace and security. But unfortunately, we have come to the moment that that redundant office has become the more bribery scandal and the worst one you can ever imagine in the world combined. United Nations is here in the United States, it's not elsewhere. One will expect the justice to prevail, but unfortunately, justice has turned a blind eye, and it is here in the United States, it's not elsewhere. It's physically here in the United States. When justice turns a blind eye and it is being led by a certain individual, you all know who that person can be. Antonio Guterres. Antonio Guterres, one will expect the communist China that they are above the law. There's no law governing the people of China. But when it comes to the nation, when law are respected, and I feel my people dying because the United Nations turned a blind eye and failed to respect their own documents. It is painful. When the United Nations, that is physically here in the United States, ignore the factual information about their own document, it is under their keeping, and they fail to recognize. And what happened to the rest of the world? Chaotic and brutality become the order of the day, because the purpose in which that office was created was to maintain peace and security. The United Nations office here in the United States. But unfortunately, that United Nations has become a scammer. It's headed by a group of individuals that has ignored the fundamental value of its own document. If people of these great nations and the rest of the world voted in 1961 and recognized the people of Ambazonia as a sovereign nation, then it is an obligation that that office release the document and said, oh, You guys need to stay calm. I know what is going on here. The people have the right to their freedom, and they are rising, and I have no obligations as the United Nations office to respect the will of the people and move out the document and present it to the world. Let the world debate on it, but instead they remain silent. That is the world we live in. The world that is full of corruption. The world that one will not ever admire and think that this is the most admired place on earth. But unfortunately, we are in a world where corruption has become the philosophy of the day. And that is why the people of Ambazonian, a woman is pregnant at the time of his delivery, after 9 months in pregnancy, after 9 months of pregnancy, I expect the woman to deliver her baby and think the love of what she has accomplished as an adulthood. But unfortunately, she was enrolled by fire because a terrorist government of a terrorist La Republic. If the United States Department of Defense can pull out of the military training that were provided against the Boko Haram, that would have signaled the world community that if the United States pull out of La Republic as a military assistance against the Boko Haram, it means something is fundamentally wrong with that particular government. But unfortunately, we have the United Nations, it still remains silent whether to bring the issues to be tabled on, because the leadership is corrupted. Why do you find the world in this environment? Why? It's because when the leadership of the United Nations becomes a corrupted organization, the painful is spread like a wildfire on behalf of the indecent people. But today they will say, okay, Africa is the poorest country on earth because we have leadership crisis, and it's not elsewhere. Is here the most admired nation on earth. And I think that justice must prevail. United States must stand for the freedom. United States has the power to indict the United Nations, and they all can go to jail. Because if we all stand for freedom, then it must begin here. It must begin here. It must begin here. If a police officer stops me, it's because there is a document that gives the police officer an authority to stop me, and we all abide by the rules and regulations that govern us here in the United States. And it should in every level. It should not be applicable to a certain individual. While I am speaking here, my people are living in the forest, in the midst of their own home. In the midst of their own home. When I grew up, we are engraved with the cultural belief that our fandom is the respected place that we all grew up. We respect our fun's palace, except those who deviate from the original objectives. But today, the barefoot fandom, the most highly respected fandom amongst many of the fandoms. But today, we find the terrorist government of La Republique, even the colonial British and the German that first came to Africa, they have never attacked the fandom, especially. They have never. Until we have a terrorist government of La Republique in our territory that we don't know where they came from. The fact that we choose to have La Republique as a cohabiting relationship doesn't give La Republique an authority and audacity to intermeddle in our fandom. That is the most sacred place that we love. And we believe in the value of our fandom. And we don't believe that our people should be met together by a terrorist government of La Republique. Our people, it is imperative that all of us must rise. We must rise against the terrorist government of La Republique. Our people deserve their home, they deserve their place, and they deserve their habitual area. And the area is where they believe that they should be living there without any destruction. Our fund is looking for a hidden place to leave his palace. There's no one day a single invasion that the fundum has ever been attacked. But today, our fundum is being attacked by a terrorist government of a neighboring country because we have become the enemies in our own homeland. But here, I have a good news to tell you. La République, I can assure you that the battle will be converted to La République territory in a 2D. Because it's a matter of time and frequency. But when the frequency turns the angle directly to a 2D, that is where the rainy season will begin in the midst of the hot summer. When you have a world that is full of corrupted leadership, that is where it spread into beyond the level of the society. I expect the United Nations to be more pluralistic and respect the goal and which the fundamental in which it was formed. But in an era where we have a fundamental crisis of the United Nations, that the purpose in which it was created has redundant and abandoned the goal in which it was created. I mean, it is time the world needs to turn around. The world needs to turn around and find a United Nations that is better prepared to rescue human life rather than the corrupted system that is enriching itself and bribery become the philosophy of the day. United Nations that has turned a chaotic environment from a chaotic environment to a crisis center, to a bribery center. And that is why when you don't have a bribery capacity, you will not be admitted or accepted to see the United Nations. But I have a good news that the United States stand for the crisis and prevent these individuals. You have people like Antonio Guterres. It's the most corrupted system in this century that one can ever imagine. It's time the world needs to stand up for its obligation necessary. The world must stand up for obligation necessary. Obligation necessary is when a body stands for the right and the role of which it was created, rather than become a schemish and corrupted and bribing office. This is the moment I have ever seen the United Nations become the worst in the world. That is why I admire Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton told Brutus Ghali was at the helm of the United Nations. Bill Clinton said, no, you must leave, and he leaves. And then we have another reformed individual. He came and reformed United Nations. I am indebted to his life that God has taken him to a more higher office where he will prepare for the Lord Jesus Christ. Kofi Annan replaces the Egyptian corrupted individual. Kofi Annan came in during this crisis. Kofi Annan prepared and said, I have a vision for the United Nations. It's because we have leadership of former President Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton said, no, I cannot have you. To the U.S. ambassador, permanent representative at the United Nations, it's time the Egyptians must leave. And the Egyptian left. And when the Egyptian left, Kofi Annan came and reformed the system. Today we can be proud of it. But now we have another corrupted individual that is at the helm of the United Nations enterprise. And that is why it has become the worst environment, the most hazard environment one can ever imagine. I am here to let the United Nations that because our people are suffering in their own territory, then you become the sufferer. Because we are bringing this attention to the world community because they have ignored the factual information. Article 1608, if we all value documents, if you all value the truth, and we stand up for the truth, and we speak the truth, then we should be standing for the factual information. Our people is not ethnic society. Our people is not part of La Republic. We have a leadership crisis. We have a certain individual disrupt our people, our identity, our upbringing, our fashion, and our way of life. And we have leadership at the United Nations that fiscally endorse it. That we have leadership crisis in the United Nations endorse this brutal individual. Time has come, fellow brothers and sisters. We are at war. We are at war. And the enemies of us, enemies of our land is many. They are plentiful. The enemies of our land are plentiful. It began here in the United States, where we have the United Nations corrupted individual. It's few distance to New York. It's few distance to New York. If the United Nations stood for the truth, then they ought to respect the truth, because we all stand for the truth, and the truth is clear. It the vote in 1961 recognizing the people of Ambazonia as a sovereign nation. It is time, let's bring out the document and let La Republic leave the Southern Cameroon. Our people are being murdered each day. Our people are living in the forest. Our people are now living like an enemy in their own hometown, because we have a terrorist government of a neighboring country that invaded our people and behave as if though we are slavery. But I have a good news that as we the free people, God will stand for us. God will fight for us, and we all are in one unity. We may have some rotten individual that is in our midst, but we cannot succumb to those individuals. But we must stay fast. We must stand together. We must let the enemy that we are ready to face them squarely. We are ready to face them squarely. Fellow brothers and sisters, we are at war. We are at war. Imagine a local health center. A local health center is a hospital. A local center is a hospital that provides fundamental care to the people within that particular jurisdiction. And any military involvement should respect the golden and the surrounding with that location, because that is an essential place that provides care. We all know that by virtue of the international law, you cannot in any circumstances attack the health center. But by accident, it can happen, because, for example, if a bomb is set up, it can accidentally drop in a, that is a fundamental error. But when a human in a live form with a military weapon walk into a health center and burn the hospital, it is painful, that feeling, that La Republic need to pay dearly. When the military of a terrorist government of La Republic walk physically to a medical center and shot patients, burn the rest, including a pregnant woman who is about to deliver a child, then it is painful, and that government need to pay dearly. But we have the world that pay less interest. We have a world that is led by the corrupted individuals. And because France is the architect of veto power at the United Nations, that is why the matter is less an urgency to be debated. But I believe the United States can do something. Southern Cameroon has been deliberately or adamantly refused to be debated at the United Nations. You all know why. Because we have France, the architects that determine what should be debated at the United Nations. Because it's the most corrupted office that I have ever seen in this century. Fellow brothers and sisters, while we have a corrupted world body, we need to prepare ourselves, for the victory is soon to be realized. Our victory is at hand. We must face the enemy. We have l'Afrique. l'Afrique that is terrorizing our people in the Southern Cameroon territory. We should engage him and eliminate that individual out of Southern Cameroon, because our people cannot live in a forest while a foreign individual is benefiting in our land, in our territory, and we become living in a foreign land. Our people are living in the forest. The sons and daughters of the Southern Cameroon Ambazonian are living in the forest, while a foreign individual from La Republic is enjoying the fruit of our land against the wish of the people, because France is the architect of the world community that decide the future of this world. But I have a good news to let the world know, that our people has rise to fall no more. Our people has rise to fall no more. Our people has rise to fall no more. We have our people, they are packing their luggages to leave their own homeland, the land they were born, where they believe is where their ancestors grew. But we have a terrorist individual that occupied that land, and people are living because they have weapons, military and guns, and that they can control our way of life and ask us to leave our homeland and allow them to be part of that land. Here I have a good news for the world, that we will rise and to fall no more. We will rise to fall no more. It's time that we will rise to fall no more. The Lord will hear our prayer. The Lord will hear our prayer. And that we will rise to fall no more. And that those terrorist administrators that are from foreign neighboring country in our territory, and they are enjoying the fruit of our land, while our people are suffering and living in the midst of the forest, in the land of the prosperity. But the people are not prosper because we have a terrorist organization that control our life. But we will rise to fall no more. We will rise to fall no more. I have a good news for fellow brothers and sisters, that we will rise to fall no more. Even the last individual will proclaim the sovereignty, and that the land will remain for the people, and their victory remains theirs. And I am here to pronounce this victory. In the world where there is atrocity, in the world where respect the rule of the game has been abandoned, because we have the world that is most corrupted, I have to let the world know that we are aware of them. And we are speaking up, because we will not surrender when we have this amidst of atrocity. Fellow brothers, we will rise to fall no more. We will rise to fall no more. It is absolutely disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. You can find the United Nations office. You know, if I was imagining that the United Nations was somewhere else, if I thought the United Nations was somewhere else, maybe somewhere in China. You all know the communist system in China. The communist system is when a certain individual controls every aspect of the people's life. But the people are less. But when we have a United Nations that is in the land of liberty, in the land where freedom reigns, in the land where people can express their wishes, and therefore we, the people, the sons and daughters, we are asking the United States government that you can do something. If the United States government single-handedly recognize the Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, then the United States can do something about our people. Our people are in disarray because we have a terrorist government that invade our property and destabilize our people, that despite the fact that we have no relationship. When the United Nations voted in 1960 to recognize this terrorist government as a nation by the French origin, our people were not part of that territory. Our people were not part of that territory in 1960. And so therefore, why should our people become the slaughtering house by this very terrorist government? And the world remains silent because France is the architect of world community that decide the future. But I have a good news, that our people have risen and that we will fall no more. Our people have risen and we will fall no more. Our freedom, we have risen, we will fall no more. Fellow brothers and sisters, for those in ground zero, I can assure you that we stand with you together. Whatever you do, you know we are assure you that we are together in this business. Those in ground zero stand with Holy Spirit, because the spirit of the land of Ambazonia stand with you together. We all admire and we all use all those. We know there are some bad cocoyams within our midst, here in the diaspora and elsewhere. But however, the few leadership, remember when Jesus Christ has his disciples, not everybody were in accordance with Jesus Christ. There were some bad apples within the midst of Jesus Christ. And so Ambazonia is not an exception. But however, we stand with you, fellow brothers and sisters of Ground Zero. We are in good accordance. We support you. We are here for you. And that we don't take the bad apples in our midst. So let's stand in full spirit. Let's stand in full spirit. Fellow brothers and sisters, let's stand in full spirit. Let's stand in full spirit. That we will not in any circumstances allow La Republique to romance our territory. Because we have a government we have a United Nations office that is the most corrupted system that one can imagine. But I am here to let our brothers that those terrorist individuals that are within our territory, we have asked you many times to leave our homeland. You leave our homeland and come to us as friendly people, and we will welcome you as a friendly individual. But to come and tell us that you're going to dictate to us what we should and we shouldn't do, then we have come to the moment that the pain of the people has risen, and that we will stand together firmly, and we will unite, and we will fall no more. Because our spirit is now stronger, is the highest level that one can ever imagine. Fellow brothers in Ground Zero, we know our brothers and sisters, we know our wives have been burned down. We know our loved ones has been burned down. We know our health center has been burned down. We know woman burned down with the pregnancy, with a child. I know that the health center was burned down. But however, our spirit is united and strong. Even the world spirit will join us as they begin to ignore the factual information. We call on the spirit to hit them in their midst and let them understand that our people is seeking the freedom that they deserve. They were never a colonial territory, but they find themselves in the midst of atrocity of their people, and that they are now living in the midst of the forest. And we have a terrorist government because the world community remains silent to speak and understand the factual information. But I have a word to you, that the international community, that our people has risen and they will fall no more. We will fall no more, fellow Ambazonian. We will fall no more, but the enemy will rise. And that l'Afrique in the northwest zone, I have a good news for you. It is a matter of time. You will be one of the sacrificial lambs as we bless our land. Because you as an individual will not control our people. Our people has risen no, and I will fall no more. You will be sacrificed to bless our land because our people has risen. Fellow brothers and sisters, our people must stand their ground. Fellow brothers and sisters, our people must stand their ground. Our people must stand their ground. We cannot, in the midst of atrocity, we find the world ignore the reality. We find the world ignore the reality. You imagine within the past 56 years, because they see a Tanganji, the ex-convict, because a convict is not ever escaped. He's never afraid of human dignity, because when a convict that was recognized by the La Republique, La Republique recognized this Atangaji as an enemy, and he was jailed. But today, La Republique chose him to slaughter our people. But Atangaji Your blood will be sacrificed because the land of our people, for those who turn their back for reality, our spirit of our land shall hunt you, and to the rest of wherever you shall go. We will hunt you. Our spirit is strong. You all know that our people is not romancing. You all know. Even the Prime Minister who is from North Zone, he hasn't. The current Prime Minister, you can't see him doing what you are doing. He remained silent because he knew the foundation of the people of the land of our ancestors. Our land will not allow you to use our people and all your interests, because we will sacrifice you and those that are behind you. Our spirit has risen, and our spirit will fall no more. Our spirit shall hunt you to wherever you shall go. But I can assure you that Ambazonia has risen. I can imagine a Tanganji with the complicity with some other expansionists, including their own family relatives, will capture in a Guardian post that the U.S. election monitor. That individual is a certain individual that basically has no food on the table. That is the person they call a U.S. monitor. Who is that individual? That a U.S. renowned, I am sorry, a U.S. renowned. What a Guardian disgrace paper. A U.S. monitor predict. Fellow brothers and sisters, we are in this spirit. We are stronger than ever before. Never feel discouraged. Never feel discouraged, because the victory is ahead. We are already a nation. We need to eradicate those in our territory. We need to eradicate them. That is the goal and the mission which we stand for. And fellow brothers and sisters, those of the defense of our territory, please plan ahead. Prepare yourself. Don't expose yourself. You know where the enemies are. You know how to communicate where the enemies are. Surround them and do your job. And that is the spirit. Forget about whether you should show you whatever you have. Keep what you have, because we know you are there. Keep what you have. Surrender the enemies and bring out the result, because we have a terrorist in our territory. But because in the midst of the world has deliberately ignored the factual information and to stand with the people of Ambazonia. But those on the ground zero, prepare yourself. You know where they are. You know where they are. Prepare yourself, encircle them, and bring result. That is the spirit that I can assure you that we have come to overcome, because victory belongs to us. Don't show what you have. Keep what you have and encircle the enemies. You knew where they are. You knew where they're going to be, and you know what to do. Encircle them and bring out result, because our Ambazonia has risen. We're not going to fall no more. Because in the midst of the world community has ignored factual information. Article 1608 XV of the United Nations Charter is respect the independence of the people of Ambazonia. And the same document should respect the independence of La Republic. The fact that we choose to live together as brothers and sisters doesn't allow them to become that we should be part of their colonial territory. And here we have risen. We will fall no more, because the United Nations, the most corrupted and the bribery organization that is physically here in the United States. I have a good news, that our people will fall no more. Thank you. I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are watching. I know many of you are preparing to go to work. I know many of you are preparing. But I want to thank those on ground zero, that our spirits are in together. We will rise, we will fall no more. I want to tell, I love you. I wish you all the best. We stand together, and our freedom will be at hand. Thank you. May God bless all of you, the people of Ambazonia.